we are coming as the Jewish people to our own people. So in that sense, I think it's helpful that it's not just coming from a Gentile, non-Jewish background to sharing the gospel. It's saying that I am Jewish, I grew up as a Jewish people, the same tradition, the same views, and yet I believe in the Messiah because of what the scripture says, because of who he was, who he is, and what he has done. Obviously, the hindrances is that many, particularly the Orthodox community, they see us as the worst enemy because they feel that we are trying to, quote, quote, steal the souls of the Jewish people by trying to convert them to, quote, quote, Christianity. But one of the things we have to realize is really Christ didn't come to start a new religion called Christianity. He came to bring back the faith in the one God, back then if we would call it the Judaism, to where it should have been. And that's why he often emphasized that he has not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law. And that's what we are trying to do by explaining that faith in Yeshua is not converting to a new religion or Christianity, but it's actually bringing back the faith in the one God, the faith of our fathers, into where it's supposed to be, since we have gone astray.
I remember one time being seated with this student. We were reading a Hebrew text, and the student stopped and said, "So what do you think about all this?" And I thought, wow, what a great question. So I said, well, let me share with you what happened to me. And I shared my testimony. And I talked about being a pastor in a Pentecostal church. And she said, or charismatic church. And she said, oh, these are churches where they clap their hands and they sing and raise their hands. I said, yeah. And she said, I would love to be a rabbi of a charismatic synagogue. And I said, well, where do you think we get these ideas? So we opened to the book of Psalms and looked at passages that had to do with clapping hands and music and raising hands and musical instruments and worshiping God that way. And I thought, for me, it was such a gift to be able to share that with that student who was going to be a rabbi. And my prayer is that one day I start receiving phone calls or emails from former students in the rabbinic program who say, I got it. I now have met the Messiah, Yeshua, and now I'm a believer, and now I understand what you were talking about.
In Romans, we see Romans 10 and 11, that it's the Gentile church that draws and makes envious, Jewish people into faith. And of course, we were created. What does it mean to be chosen? We were chosen simply to be the messengers of God's good news to the nations. That's what it means. And so, I take very seriously the call to be an evangelist, to share the good news with everyone. But I've always seen in my life I'm much more effective with people who aren't Jewish than with people who are. Just as I see amongst Jewish people, there's a great effectiveness for them with people who are not Jewish, as opposed to Jewish people who are meshummids, which is the Hebrew word for traitor, apostate. I've certainly been called that at my time by my own people.
What I treasure most of all, and what we treasure most of all, we have, because 2,000 years ago there were some Jewish people who came to that conclusion that God had risen Jesus from the dead as an indication of overcoming sin and evil and creating a new reality. We hadn't known that well. It hadn't been ours had it not been for some Jewish people at that time holding on to that, despite of the situation that we're in, and sharing that with others. And through them, that story has reached to me. I owe it to them to take it back to them.
I am who I am, and I think any Jewish person I meet recognizes I'm not a former Jew, I'm still a Jew. So that's part of the statement I make. You think of Paul's own words in Romans. He says, I am, an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. He doesn't say, I used to be a Jew, but now I'm a follower of this Nazarene. He's still a Jew. So I think my identity is strong as a Jew, and that's important in communicating to another Jew.